It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Well, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tiltingground Untitled Notre Dame USC football podcast. I'm Michael Muto. I'm here with Greg Flamong. Hi, Greg.
Hey, buddy.
I feel like it's been forever.
It's
And
been a long time.
it's too long, and it's actually only been a week. But when you do something for 21 straight weeks, it kind of becomes a habit. I was texting Greg last recording time at last week, and I was like, "Hey, I miss you, buddy." So we decided to give the people this, a little something fun in between actual football news, and we're going to name our top 5 players from our respective teams. So I'll be naming my top 5 USC favorite football players. Greg will be naming his top 5 Notre Dame football players. But it's just a little something fun, and to break it up, we also, because we watched football for almost our whole lives now, we're going to name our favorite players from the other teams. Just two. We're not going to go crazy here. This is rival talk. So I will.
As you just learned, Mike, I had a tough time picking even one. So.
Oh man, it was so hard. It was really so. Every time I was putting my Notre Dame list together of 2 players, I was like, no, not that guy. I hate that guy. Oh, what about that guy? No, not him. So there's a testament to how much I actually do dislike Notre Dame, even though I'm fairly positive towards them.
There you go.
On the podcast. All right, so we are going to start with USC. And I just want to give a couple honorable mention guys here. When I was going over stats and looking into this, that Rob Johnson junior season was pretty good. Rob Johnson was one of my first favorite players. I've mentioned that before, and I just want to.
What year was that?
I believe it
was
was
92.
92, yeah.
Okay, so he was the quarterback for my first ever Notre Dame USC game.
Wow.
My first ever Notre Dame game, period, yeah.
Notre Dame won, in case anyone's curious.
They did.
Well, Tony Baselli, he was a guy I loved when I was a kid. Mike Van Raphorst, he was great.
Oh, my.
Mike Bastianelli. I'm digging deep. I always liked Brian Cushing with the crazy long hair and, going wild. He was a big favorite of mine. Who else? Who else did I like that's not on the top 5? Matt Grudegood. That's a name from way back.
Okay.
I think those are some of my favorites. So I was putting the list together, and those are the honorable mention. And picking number 5 actually was the hardest. I had the top 4 down. I knew who they were. But number 5 was a tough one, and he was actually on that 1992 USC Trojans team. He played wide receiver. Number 80, Johnny Morton.
Johnny Morton.
I think he was my real first. I knew what was going on the field. I could follow the game. I knew all the players. I knew players from other schools. I was actually deeply invested and could follow football. I think that was one of my first seasons. And when I was looking at his stats, and I remember we were talking about Curtis Conway a couple weeks ago, and how his stats were garbage, but he was a good player. Johnny Morton was on that 1992 team, and he had some great stats that, are still, he's number 2 all-time in receiving yards, career receiving yards. He's number 2 all-time for most receiving yards in a season. That's pretty impressive, especially the way they started throwing the ball with Matt Barkley. Johnny Morton, he was great. He's kind of a little guy.
He was. He was, he was on that 92 team, so I remember him very well. Fun fact, I don't know why this was the case. So remember when they played? So the week before they played Notre Dame, they played UCLA that year.
Okay.
And that was I think that was the one with J.J. Stokes and his little huge game. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was. Remember when that Barnes guy came in and he was like a ball boy and then he threw for like 300 yards?
I've always hated J.J. Stokes. He's probably one of the players that I hate the most.
So I was actually rooting for USC in that game. And I don't know why, but I was. And then the next week, I was, all in for Notre Dame. It was like I said, my first game ever, and I was like shaking in the stands. I was so nervous. I was 11. So Johnny Morton, Curtis Conway, and Travis Hanna were the receivers. And they were, like, looking back on it, like, it's kind of amazing that Notre Dame won that game because they just had so many offensive weapons.
Yeah, I think that was a team a little ahead of its time. I don't want to, toot my USC horn a little too much, but compared to the years surrounding it, like that was a pretty offensive-minded team. They weren't that good though. Freedom Bowls, everybody, Freedom Bowls.
I mean, Larry Smith, thanks for coming.
Yeah, great. All right. So that's Johnny Morton. Let's see. My number four all-time favorite USC player. I think a lot of people who are actually listening to this might think this guy's a little low number four. He's a Heisman winner, plays quarterback, number 11, Matt Leinart. When he came on the scene, I was very excited. Those teams were great. They had all the fun players. I'm a big Lendell White guy. I don't think I mentioned him in my honorable mention. So it was actually a toss-up on those teams, the Matt Leinart teams, between Leinart and Lendell, who my favorite was. And I had to give it to the quarterback. He had that SoCal charm. I met him. He was really nice. I've mentioned that before. He has some pretty good stats for the Trojans, too. He's, third all-time in passing yards, third all-time for passing yards in the season, 99 touchdowns. I thought that was a fun number. I mean, the guy won a Heisman. He won a national title, too. I haven't even said that yet. I don't care what the record books say. That guy won a national title. And he was the quarterback in the greatest game ever played. So, as some people call it.
He was. Now, I don't believe that he didn't, make a big mistake in that game, did he?
No, I don't think so.
I think he was pretty solid.
He was fine. I think they got off to a slow start. That was a little bit of the problem.
I don't remember him throwing a big pick.
To be fair, I was there, and I don't remember much.
That's right, you were there.
So, that game was a blur. I don't think I've ever actually watched the whole thing on TV.
Yeah.
I'm not up for it. I just know that Vince Young scored a touchdown running right towards me, and it was awful.
Yeah, I don't think of when you say Johnny Morton, I remember oh yeah, that guy was really good. He was fun,
Yeah.
I have no positive anything to say about Matt Leinart.
Well, I mean, also for Matt Leinart, I mean, that's when USC started beating Notre Dame. It was about damn time. Consistently.
Yeah, and 03, I think, was when he came on the scene, correct?
I believe so.
Carson Palmer graduated in 02, or that was his last year.
Yeah.
And then Matt Leinart came. I don't know that I think he played Notre Dame 3 times. I don't know that he ever threw the ball to a receiver that was covered.
Well, just the one time. What was it? Was it Mike Williams that good catch? People all over him when it mattered.
Was it against Notre Dame?
Yeah.
I don't remember that happening.
You blocked that one?
I honestly, I've forgotten so much about that time period.
That era.
03 and 04 especially.
I know how that goes. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt Leinart. Guy won national titles. Push. It's famous. Won a Heisman. Gotta love Matt Leinart. All right, now it's Greg's turn. Who is your second favorite all-time Trojan?
My second favorite all-time Trojan. I'm gonna give an ode to my former player from my high school, Desmond Reed. He was on that 05 team. He actually tore up his knee against Notre Dame. It was, if you remember in that 05 game how Notre Dame grew out the grass?
Kinda.
really long so that they would slow down USC and Reggie Bush specifically. So I actually talked to Desmond, like, I don't know, maybe a year later or something like that. And he said that his foot got caught in the grass, and that was how he hurt his knee.
Apparently, it was really bad, his knee injury.
Yeah, it was not good.
It wasn't just like your, run of the mill ACL
Yeah.
tear.
I mean, I felt bad that that's what ended his career. He's a smaller guy for the position he played, so he wasn't really ever going to be like, I don't know that he had like pro aspirations.
Right.
But I mean, he's without question. I mean, I don't know about the 70s or whatever, but he was without question like the best football player that ever came out of my high school. So, Desmond Reed, wherever you're at, if you happen to listen to this, good on you, my friend. Congrats.
Makes our hometown proud.
Makes the hometown proud. And it was really nice because when I say nice, I mean terrible. So like, I was a pretty good high school football player for my school, and Desmond came like the year after I graduated. So it's like I never had like a big run of like, oh yeah, like no one was able to match Greg. Like no, like right away.
The next year.
Yeah, started as like a freshman in varsity, and it's like, all right, like he's clearly better than me.
Well, good. So, hey, you had it for a minute there.
Yeah, but like a short minute.
All right. So my third. All right, moving on. My third favorite USC player of all time. We're switching sides of the ball here. He actually was on that 1992 USC Trojans team, which apparently just imprinted on me. He wore the iconic number 55.
The number 55.
The number 55. It's a Trojan legend, Willie McGinnis.
Willie McGinnis.
Unfortunately, with the defensive players, it's really hard to like compare their stats and because things kind of change and you don't really get that many sacks because you don't really play that many games and things like that. So I don't think the stats reflect how good he really was. He was an All-American. He was I think he was the fifth pick in the first round for the New England Patriots. And really, I'm not gonna lie, like I remember him at USC. He was great. He was on those teams I loved. And then he became a Patriot, which is my favorite. He's actually the half the reason why I'm a New England Patriots fan. So it's actually funny. I'm going to tell the story because it's our podcast, and like we have a little bit of time here.
This is our podcast. It's your podcast specifically.
So in growing up, we live in Los Angeles. I was a Rams fan. I was a kid. Whatever. I'm young and stupid. And
well, not young and stupid. They were the hometown team.
They were the hometown team. They were terrible. So then they got a young running back from the University of Notre Dame named Jerome Bettis. And things got hard for me. I couldn't do it. It was I didn't like rooting for someone who went to Notre Dame. It really bothered me. And so right around that time, Willie McGinnis is a top pick for the Patriots. The Patriots had the number one pick with Drew Bledsoe the year before. And then when the Rams left, like it was okay for me to jump ship. I was already leaning that way. Like, who else can I root for? The Patriots team is fun. And then when the Rams left, I was all in on New England and never looked back, and it's really worked out. So thank you, Willie McGinnis.
So it was just because you didn't have to root for them anymore? You didn't have to root for Jerome Bettis anymore because he was on the Rams and they left?
Truthfully, yes. The reason I stopped liking the Rams is because of Jerome Bettis.
That's a sad story.
When I was a little kid, it meant that much to me. That the best player on the team I liked went to Notre Dame, and it really bothered me.
Well, you're not going to like my list then.
In a couple of weeks, we wanted to start out positive, but in a couple of weeks that we do most hated players, I imagine Jerome Bettis will come up. So William McGinnis, everybody, the iconic number 55. All right, number 2. We're coming down the pipeline here. Number 2 for me. He also plays on defense. He was not on those 1992 teams, though. He was a much maligned. Well, maybe not. I take that back. Actually, he was on the team from 1993 to 1996. He was the team MVP in 1996.
Wait.
You want to guess?
Team MVP in 1996. Much maligned.
That's a lie. They went to a Rose Bowl in 1995. So.
And he plays on defense?
He plays on defense.
You're not going to say Sammy Knight, are you?
I am going to say Sammy Knight.
Oh, my goodness. That's funny.
I love Sammy Knight so much. I have no idea why. Just what was that, like 95? So that's like junior high school. Oh, man. He was always around the ball. I felt like he was really good. He did play like a hybrid position. Like he was like strong safety, but then he would also play like kind of outside linebacker. Like he was always in the box. Definitely, he was always He actually was the first freshman to start at safety post World War II for the Trojans.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I always thought he was just a good football player. And he never did get drafted, but then he had a pretty good NFL career after that. So I think I was a little vindicated. I do remember he had some kind of scandal where he like took team gear and returned it to Foot Locker for money. And back then, when that kind of hurt me, but now I would be okay with it.
Yeah, that was back in the day when like any little thing you did like that, it was like the worst thing in the world.
Wait till you see what the number one guy on my list did that I didn't know about until reading this. But yeah, no, Sammy Knight. He was just one of my favorites. Number 9, he was single digits. His DBs are always fun. And he's always around the ball. I liked him.
All right.
I think he's probably one of the underrated Trojans of all time. That's a bold statement, I know.
Well, I mean, it's someone that like you wouldn't really think of, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there going, man, Taylor Mays was the best safety at USC ever. Actually, it's Troy Polamalu. I guess they're saying Troy Polamalu probably, but I'm sure someone's saying.
I think Taylor Mays went back to college and now calls himself Max Redfield. Same player. Same problem.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Taylor Mays is the no-fly zone here. I couldn't think who his safety counterpart was back then, but he was on an honorable mention list as well.
Sammy Knight?
No, whoever the other safety was with Taylor Mays.
No, with Taylor Mays? Oh, yeah. Okay.
I can't think of his name right now. I didn't bother to look it up. Sorry, everyone.
Who is that number 29 guy? He was white, right?
No. He's on the Chargers for a second, and I can't think of his name. He went like crazy.
Okay.
His name's like Jared Allen or something, but that's wrong.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Anyways, all right, Greg, your favorite Trojan of all time, coming from a Notre Dame fan.
My favorite Trojan of all time. He's my favorite because, I mean, I just like loved watching him play, and I thought he was unbelievable. I mean, basically, like he was like Will Fuller before Will Fuller.
That's a pretty good description, actually.
And they actually have the same problem because they both drop passes all the time. It's Marquise Lee.
He was a good one.
He had like stats. The thing about that's different about Marquise Lee, and actually like you can make a case that he's actually like had a better college career. Well, that's not true. He had one season, his sophomore year, where like it's better than any year that Will Fuller had, because like Will Fuller, like he would have games where it's like he'd have one catch, like one big play, and it's like that was kind of it. You know, like he had a couple 2-touchdown games, but I mean Marquise Lee had some games where like he's got like 10 catches for like 200 whatever yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, I'll never forget that game against Arizona I think that SC might have actually even lost the game. But he was just unstoppable. I mean, it's like every time they threw him the ball, he was scoring from anywhere on the field, and they just couldn't deal with him. And
Yeah, he was great.
At the time, I thought like he needs to win the Heisman Trophy. Like he's the best player in college. I mean, I just couldn't think of anyone who was better than him. Like he was just unstoppable. I mean, in the first game against Hawaii in 2012, they throw him a hitch route. He makes one move and then just runs straight down the sideline for like 75-yard touchdown. It was the first play of the season. I was like, okay.
You really set the tone.
It's like, great. So Notre Dame's gonna lose to those jerks. And then he scored he had a kickoff return for a touchdown in that game too. So, I mean, just an unbelievable player. I thought when he was coming out, he was gonna run like a 4.140. I thought he was, and apparently he wasn't that fast or whatever. I mean, if he could have come out after his sophomore year, he'd have been a first rounder.
For sure.
His junior year, like I feel like he was hurt a lot.
Yeah.
And he was kind of dropping passes.
Well, it's hard to come back from like that great year. Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, you know, expectations of the world. Like for a dumb kid.
He's thinking like, you know, he's probably protecting himself a little bit too.
Yeah, you know? I'm just going deep. Nope, not going over the middle, coach. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But those, I mean, you know, Lane Kiffin, as much as everyone hates him, those Robert Woods, Marquise Lee, Nelson Aguilar, like, those guys, I guess Aguilar was probably Sarkisian, but he was around. Those guys had some good numbers, man. I mean, I think Robert Woods and Marquise Lee are 1 and 2 in, like, every stat.
And the fact that, like, Marquise Lee was so good because, like, Robert Woods was supposed to be, like, he had a 200-yard game or something against Stanford his freshman year.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Woods is no joke.
Robert Woods was supposed to be, like, the second coming. And then Marquise Lee comes, and then all of a sudden, it's like they don't even look at Robert Woods anymore. It's like, I mean, it's incredible that he overshadowed him to such a high degree.
I think that was Lane Kiffin, too. But from what I hear, Robert Woods is not a fan of Mr. Kiffin.
I'm sure he's not.
All right. Same side of the ball. Same position. My favorite USC.
Is this your number one?
This is my number one. You want to guess?
Okay.
I bet you can.
Mike Williams.
No, that was a good guess, though.
R.J. Sowers. Oh, no. Keyshawn.
There you go, Keyshawn. Keyshawn Johnson, number 3. Yeah. He was it, man, for that time period in my life. He was only on the team for 2 years, 1994, 1995. I was just young enough to, you know, that's the kind of kid who hates a pro football team because their best players from Notre Dame. Just rah Trojans. And Keyshawn was just the best. I mean, he really was the best. He was the number 1 pick in the draft. He, when I was going over all the stats, actually, he's only on the team for 2 years, and he is. How did it go? He's 4 and 5 for receiving yards in the season. So he's the only guy that shows up twice in the top 10.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good, especially for back then. He played. Let's see, there were 2 bowl games he played in. He played in the Cotton Bowl, and at the time had the Cotton Bowl record for receiving yards, which has, I'm sure, been broken. It was like 222 yards, which is crazy for 1994. And then, or 1995, I guess the year had changed at that point.
Yeah.
And then he had a Rose Bowl that I was at. It was my first Rose Bowl game. They played Northwestern, and he was the Rose Bowl MVP. And it was just a great moment for everyone involved. So I'll always have a fond spot for Mr. Keyshawn Johnson, 2-time All-American. And he was on the television show Coach while he was in college, which is super weird to me.
Whoa.
And I loved him.
That is not a fact that I was aware of.
Mm-hmm. And I loved the show Coach when I was a child because, you know, football.
I mean, who didn't?
Yeah, it was great. Great
And
show.
obviously.
And then Keyshawn was there. So Keyshawn Johnson. Oh, I met him, as I've told the story on the podcast before. He was very nice to me as a child. So Keyshawn Johnson, number 3, is my favorite Trojan of all time.
I do remember that. I do remember that Rose Bowl. He was amazing.
Yeah. He was the Rose Bowl MVP, and he's now in the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
With
Although
Mike Van Rapport's brother, Jeff.
he did do a thing. He did do a thing that I thought was funny. So he did the Heisman pose in the Rose Bowl game.
Well, he thought he should have won.
But they gave it out already, dude.
Well, he's just telling you that he was the number 1 pick. So, I mean, I think he had some bona fides there.
He did. I mean, maybe he let him know. It's my award.
Yes, you gave it to the wrong guy. Who did win the Heisman in 1995?
1995, Eddie George.
Ugh. Boring running backs. You notice tailback I didn't have one running back on my list. But then again, their running backs weren't good
Yeah, like you didn't know.
when we were around. Like I never really saw Marcus Allen play for USC.
I mean, well, you could have put,
Reggie or Lendale.
Reggie Bush.
Not a big Reggie Bush guy, everyone. Sorry.
Well, were you not a Reggie Bush guy like before pre-scandal?
Oh yeah, I was always pro Thunder and Lightning.
So wait a minute. So you weren't big on Reggie Bush.
I mean,
wow.
I mean, come on, the guy's great. Like I'm not stupid. Like I watch the games.
No,
like I understand, but like I don't know, for some reason he didn't click with me.
Huh. Okay.
All right. I'm sorry. Sorry, everyone. Lendale White.
You don't apologize. This is your list. You do what
This
you
is true. This is my list. All right, let's hear your list, buddy. We're going over to the Fighting Irish. Greg's top 5 players of his top 5 favorite Notre Dame players of all time. Excuse me, because this is very subjective or objective.
Yeah. So, like you did, I'm going to give a few shout-outs here. My first game, Jerome Bettis, Reggie Brooks. Reggie Brooks ran for 212 yards and 3 touchdowns against USC.
That happened.
At the Coliseum in 1992 to send 11-year-old Greg home happy. So, good on him. I was a big fan of Joey Getherall, the little 5'6", 150-pound wide receiver who, I mean, to his credit, as a punt returner, like never called a fair catch and never like muffed a punt either.
I haven't heard that name in forever.
More importantly, never muffed a punt. Like as in the last few years, like Notre Dame's punt returns have been a little shaky. And this is a guy who, like I said, you never had to worry about him. He never fair caught. You never lost yards and like letting the ball bounce and the ball bounced away. He never lost yards. Had a game winning in overtime against Utah, or against Air Force, I mean. Game winning touchdown run. So good on Joey Getherall. Another one, Derek Mays, who, I mean, at the time, you felt like he was like the best receiver in the world. And then you look at his stats, and he had like 40 catches for like 800 yards or something.
But that was back then.
I know, but it's just like he was so big and slow.
Yeah, Curtis Conway disease.
Curtis Conway was not big and slow.
That's true. That's true.
No, he just didn't like. I just don't understand how he ever got open. But he had the best hands. Caught everything. I was just a big fan of his. Kind of like a formative years player. And then Kevin McDougal, the quarterback. from 1993 who kind of got robbed of a national championship, in my opinion. Came in to start in his 5th year, came in to start 1 year, and had like one of the top passing efficiencies in like college football history in his one season. He didn't throw that much, he didn't run that much, but it's hard to beat 11-1. And he beat Florida State in the famous game of the century, 31-24. So good on him.
Everyone keeping score at home.
Yeah.
I didn't remember him. I'm not gonna lie. When you said the name, I was like, oh, forgot about that name.
Kevin McDougal?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 year. He was in between Rick Meyer and Ron Paulus.
Ah.
And actually, so it's funny how he even got to be the starter. So Ron Paulus came in as a freshman, like all.
He was all world. Even I remember.
Yeah.
That.
I mean, Vino Cook, like he's gonna win 2 Heisman trophies and all this stuff.
He'd be the first round pick out of high school, like that kind of garbage.
Yeah. So he comes in, and Lou Holtz. I mean, he was just gonna start him. He was ready to go, and then in fall practice. How this even happens, I don't know, because now you couldn't touch a quarterback in practice, but they were scrimmaging, he got sacked, and someone landed on him, and he broke his collarbone. And that was, that provided the opportunity for McDougal to come in. And, in the, second game of his career, or third game, he beats, top 5 ranked Michigan on the road. And, the rest was history for him.
That's pretty good honorable mention.
Good for him. So, all right. So let's get into my list here.
All right.
Number 5 is a defensive player from 1996 to 1999. I almost guarantee you have never heard of him. I'll even give you the position. He was a safety.
The safety at Notre Dame from 9.
I don't know how this morphed into like us guessing or anything.
We don't know each other's list, just in case anyone hasn't figured it out yet. This is
I don't know your list yet.
No, I have no idea. Safety. No, I got nothing.
Yeah, you don't know who it is. So he goes by the name of Johnny Sanders.
Nope, don't remember that name one bit.
No, most people wouldn't. Most people wouldn't. I bet you even Tim doesn't know who it is.
When all the Notre Dame fans heard me say Sammy Knight, they're like, "Who?" This is just payback.
So Johnny Sanders is a safety, and he was not big. He was about 5'10", probably, and he was, definitely weighed under 200 pounds. I loved him. I guess you could say he was probably around the physical stature of Ed Reed, I guess, just physically. And the way that he played the game, pound for pound, he had to have been the hardest hitter that I've seen at Notre Dame. He would just crush people. I mean, he would hit a guy and he would immediately stop, and then he would drive him back. He didn't make, I remember in 98 against Michigan and Tom Brady, actually. When Michigan came in, they were a top 10 team in Notre Dame. I don't know that they were even ranked at the time. And Michigan's just driving the ball. Johnny Sanders must have had 10 tackles in the first half. Kept holding Michigan without getting in the end zone. I want to say they had 13 points at halftime. And then Notre Dame staged a pretty big comeback and won by, a couple touchdowns in the second half. But I always respected Johnny Sanders' game. I loved that he was on the team. And, one of my favorite players. And I've always talked about him. So
he is a high school head football coach, and I can't figure out the town, in case you're wondering what he's up to now.
Okay. I mean, he came from, I want to say, Texas. He got recruited to Notre Dame. I remember because this was the first year I got the Blue and Gold Illustrated used to send tapes, like highlight tapes of all the
Right.
players that were recruited, and he was the first one that I ever got. And he played for like a 2-8 high school team,
Wow. And he still got recruited?
and he still got recruited to play at Notre Dame, and was like a multi-year starter. So,
That's pretty
yeah, so
good.
he's my number 5 favorite player. My number 4 favorite player at Notre Dame. This will probably surprise people a little bit. Is going to be running back Lee Becton.
What?
I just liked him. I liked him. He had this move. Okay, first of all, so he was supposed to be a 2-year starter. In 1993, on that 93 team, he started at tailback, and he rushed for over 1,000 yards. And he was a junior at the time. He broke off, I want to say, a 70-yard touchdown against USC in 1993 on maybe, I want to say, the second play. And he was so slow. He was like known for the fact that he was like really quick, but he was super slow. Jason Sehorn ran him down from about like 20 yards away, and he just chases him down. And Lee Becton like barely made it to the end zone. But 70 yards first play against USC. He had this move that I would try to emulate all the time when I was playing Pop Warner, and then my freshman year in high school. He would just do the thing. I mean, it's a basic move. I mean, it's hard to explain over like in a podcast, but he would just basically chase like a little jab step, and then he would cut back the other way, and everyone knew he was doing it, and it always worked in every single situation. And I don't know. I always was really fond of him. Like, I loved that he was on the team. And then in 1994, he got off to a pretty good start, and then he tore his groin. He missed a bunch of games, so his season was kind of cut short. But he's my number 4 all-time favorite player.
Here's a fun Lee Becton quote. As I looked him up as you were talking,
Okay.
he pulled his hamstring in a game, and when they asked Lou Holtz about it, Lou Holtz said, "I didn't think he could run fast enough to pull a hamstring."
Yeah.
That's really funny.
He was not fast.
And
But
also, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say he ended 93 with 7 straight games over 100 yards. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
He also, so let's see, when he was a freshman, so what year was that?
That was probably 91. Yeah.
So when he was a freshman, he walked around Notre Dame campus with a football because he was so worried about fumbling, just like in the movie The Program.
Just like the movie The Program.
That's
they
pretty
must have
fun.
got it from him.
They must have. That's why I wanted to know what year it was, because I feel like that's definitely first.
Yeah, like he was like an up back on the kickoff return team, and they kicked it short because they didn't want to kick it deep to the guy, and he returned it for a touchdown.
That's pretty good.
I would say it was against like Michigan State or something.
That's pretty good. Lee Becton. He's got all kinds of fun like little stories about him. If people want to look him up on Wikipedia or not, I mean Google. I don't know. He's got all kinds of fun little stories.
He's
all
solid dude.
Number. Oh, my turn.
Yeah, you got to go.
All right, number 2. My number 2 favorite Notre Dame player of all time. Now this is crazy, and this is really hard for me to get this person. I was thinking, okay, who do I like at Notre Dame? And when they were playing there, I'm sure I forgot somebody, but I'm trying to think of who had staying power. Like who did I just continue to like as they were around in just college football, even the NFL? And he was in the same draft class as Willie McGinnis. He also played on the defensive line, Mr. Bryant Young. He was just so good. It was hard not to like someone who was that good. especially a position like defensive line, which is kind of fun to watch when guys are good. They eat up blockers and make tackles for losses, sack quarterbacks. And second quarterback and defensive tackle is always impressive. So I don't know. I just had a real soft spot for Mr. Bryant Young.
He was one of those guys that like he never did anything great, but he was always just kind of there.
Yeah.
And he just he just kind of took him for granted. Like he was just so good. You never wanted to run at him. He was always solid. Like you didn't worry about him on the defensive line. In the 93 game against Florida State, he had 2 sacks against Charlie Ward.
That's pretty good. Charlie Ward is real good.
Yeah, I mean, he won the Heisman that year in a runaway. Like, it wasn't even close. So he had 2 big sacks in that game. So, yeah. I mean, you think of him as like, oh, yeah, Bryant Young. Like, he was awesome. I think, like, people probably think a little bit more fondly of him than what he actually was. But, no, he was a really good player.
Yeah, so that was my number 2, a defensive lineman.
Yeah. So, good choice.
Thanks.
I liked it.
Thank you.
Okay, so my number 3 is going to be real simple. I mean, it's Will Fuller.
I was wondering where he was going to show up on this list.
I love the guy. Notre Dame just does not have guys like him. All I pray for is that he is healthy when the combine comes so he can run the 40.
He might have Marquise Lee disease, so be careful.
I don't know, man. He is so, like, Marquise Lee, like, he was fast, but I mean, Will Fuller, like, he just runs straight.
I mean, remind me how we know how he's fast, and he can run straight very fast.
I just don't know, like, how many people could just barbecue Adoree Jackson like that.
Thank you.
He just barbecued him on, like, the first play.
That's a real thing that happened.
It's not like he was playing prep either. He was playing off coverage, and he was bailing, and he just ran by him. Unbelievable. And then in the second half, on the interference that Jackson had in the end zone, people forget the play before, Will Fuller had just run deep and gotten another pass interference on Kevon Seymour.
Mm-hmm.
So he sprinted like 40 yards, got a pass interference, came back to line of scrimmage, and then in press coverage ran right around Adoree Jackson and burned him again after he had just sprinted. The guy is just super fast. Makes so many big plays. Like you know how like you have a guy and he gets behind somebody and he catches it and you think, oh, if he had just thrown it like a little bit further, it would have been a touchdown.
Right.
Like that's Will Fuller. Like it was always a touchdown. Like he never caught the ball and then it was like, oh, like if he had just gotten out there. Like you couldn't, if you threw it out there to him, he'd get it and then he would score. So it's like you never missed out on points when you were throwing it to him because he always got into the end zone. I mean, the guy scored 30 touchdowns in 26 career games.
That's really good.
I mean, that's unbelievable. It's incredible.
I mean, he still has another. Oh no, he's not coming back, right?
No, I can't believe you just even made me bring that up.
I know. I wanted to.
That felt intentional. That felt intentional, and I don't appreciate it.
Sorry. Shots fired. This is a fun one.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
Will Fuller, number 3. I like it. I like Will Fuller. He's definitely fun to watch.
Yeah. So my number 2 all-time favorite Notre Dame player is a running back who played from, I guess, 95 to 98.
95 to 98.
When I say it, you'll think
I know, yeah. The second you say it. I get all the years jumbled up is the real problem.
Yeah. It's Autry Denson.
Oh, of course.
So the guy's just a baller. Like just in the same sense of Lee Becton. Like he was very quick, but he just like his long speed wasn't really there. But he was just like from his first game. And he started his career at corner.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
why would I know that?
Corner. Yeah, Lou Holtz wanted him to play corner because they had so many running backs. But then in '95, like people kept getting hurt or something. So he played, and what happened was in '95, he played corner against Northwestern. And if you remember, like they lost against Northwestern in that first game. And at the time, it seemed like this huge disaster. It was like, oh my God, how'd you lose to Northwestern? Turns out Northwestern was pretty good that year.
Yes, they went to a Rose Bowl.
So
as previously mentioned.
Right. So Autry Denson's playing corner, and Lou Holtz says, "Look, we gotta get more plays on offense. I mean, this is just ridiculous." So they put Denson over at tailback, and immediately he's productive. You know, he rushed for a bunch of yards against Purdue. He rushed for 95 yards and a touchdown against USC, and maybe the best, the best Notre Dame win against USC in my lifetime. USC came in ranked number 5 in the country, and Notre Dame beat them 38-10. I mean, my goodness, when is that ever going to happen again?
Hopefully never.
Yeah, right. So he just, despite his lack of athleticism, despite his lack of size, he was always productive. He was Notre Dame's all-time leading rusher.
Which is crazy.
He still is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you'd think some of those old guys would have rushed for 1 million yards because that's all they did back then.
Well, the thing is that they did, but they didn't play a bunch of games for one. If you look at the old time stats, right? They just don't.
Right.
And the other thing that Denson had in his favor is he played a ton as a freshman, and then how many players who are as productive as him in his first 3 years are still around for their senior year?
I can name one. Matt Barkley.
Good point. I mean,
he has all the passing stats. When I was going through the list, it was like, man, this guy by a lot.
He has all the records. He has all the records, right? Because he played that 4th year. It's usually if you're super productive, you're not going to play.
Right.
So, a lot of players who were probably better than him, they were gone. So, I mean, yeah, but I love the way, he always played with a certain amount of, I mean, I hate saying swagger, but just confidence. He always, he was always very confident. He was always very, demonstrative. But he always backed it up. Like I said, he's just a baller.
No bonehead plays, nothing that you could shake your head at really.
No.
Consistent, just.
No, and you could just count on him. In every game, you always knew he's going to show up. You could always count on the guy.
Yeah, I remember. I remember. Hey, he's the coach now.
He's a running back coach, and he's amazing.
Oh, yeah, I mean those kids were great this year.
Yeah, the kid Josh Adams, the freshman, he broke his freshman running record.
No, not cool, Josh. Don't show up to coaches. All right, my turn. My favorite Notre Dame player of all time. This is going to be a bit anticlimactic, and I was a little quiet during the Will Fuller section because he is my favorite Notre Dame player of all time. I think having to watch the games all season long intently, and watching the TV show and stuff, he really wasn't on that, but being around the team this much as I am now. He was just so good. It's just hard to. He was fun. Not only was he good, he was fun. He was electric. Big plays, big moments. Greg was talking him up before the season, and I was kind of like, "Well, Fuller, which one's he again?" It's like, okay, I guess you're right, sure. And then he has the big plays just left and right, just all through the beginning of the season. It was just so much fun to watch, even though I kind of hated it on the inside still. But it was just so much fun to watch. He was so good. Just fast guys, fast football players are in college are just they're just so much fun. I don't know another word to describe Will Fuller. So Will Fuller, as of now, he was my favorite Notre Dame player of all time.
I think another thing about Fuller that I should mention is like what really resonates with me is that he's not like a typical diva receiver.
This is true.
Like,
he's very quiet.
He's quiet. He's reserved. Like he catch a long touchdown, and he'll give the ball to the ref, and then his teammates will come and he'll celebrate with them. He doesn't, generally speaking, like he does not get in people's faces. He doesn't do the first down move when he catches the ball for a first down.
the whole rigmarole.
Yeah, like he doesn't do all that stuff. He does his job. He does it like, yeah, I'm faster than everyone, so I expect to have caught this long bomb on them. I mean, the guy catches a game-winning touchdown against Virginia and saves the season in the second game, and he doesn't really do anything. He catches a game-winning touchdown against Temple, doesn't really do anything. He's just kind of like, yeah, he makes his little 2-1-5 for Philadelphia, but I mean, they were playing in Philly, so you kind of.
He had to.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not, super demonstrative. It's just like something that I personally appreciate in a player. So good on Will Fuller.
Good on Will Fuller. All right, Greg. Number one, I'm pretty sure I know who it is. I don't want to steal your thunder by guessing.
Super obvious.
I just want you to have this moment to say who your favorite Notre Dame player of all time is.
It is the reason that I am a Notre Dame fan who lives in Southern California at all, Raghib the Rocket Ismail. Raghib. Let me tell you something. Okay, so my first Notre Dame memory is, and this is actually fitting because it's heartbreak. My first Notre Dame memory is of the Rocket returning the punt 91 yards in the 91 Orange Bowl against Colorado that was called back. There's like a minute left. They're down 10-9. Offense hadn't done anything all day, and I'm thinking they're punting to Rocket. He has to return it for a touchdown. And he did. And I was what, 9 at the time? So I'm 9 years old. I'm watching it at my parents' house. And I said, he has to return it. And he did, and then they called it back. I was so upset that I went into my sister's room and I cried. 9-year-old Greg was crying. They cheated. They stole it. They stole his moment. It was traumatizing. But, it was a good prelude to my Notre Dame fandom.
It was a great way to start.
It really was. I mean, I was a fan of his before then, for whatever reason. But
I mean, he's fast. I mean, just growing up,
they called him the Rocket. I mean, that was what people said. Like, he's just the Rocket. That's his name.
And back then, to get a nickname like that, you had to be real fast.
Yeah, I mean, this was a guy who was he was faster than all of the Miami guys from that era, and we're talking about like Miami from the U 30 for 30, those guys, they could not match him. I mean, one of my the best thing, when YouTube first came out, the first thing that I did was I was like, oh, I wonder if all of clips from the Rocket are on YouTube, because you don't really get to see them because it's not like I was recording games back then, and I used to have tapes and stuff, but that was only some little clips of him, and so I finally got to see the way that he played and all of his big plays. I mean, I used to watch him all the time. I still do, actually. So, he was the last time Notre Dame had like the most feared player in college football. It's like Notre Dame had that guy that everybody wanted. Like everybody wanted the Rocket. Everyone was scared of the Rocket. It's like I said,
no, that's true. That's totally true. Back then, it was crazy. I mean, how much people talked about him.
If Miami played the Rocket, it was like we don't have any answer for him. He's faster than all of us. If whoever they played, Miami was the pinnacle then, and obviously, he returns 2 kickoffs for touchdowns against Michigan in 1989. That game was number 1 versus number 2, and he changes the game. The guy was just
great,
just unbelievable. If I ever meet him, if I ever am fortunate enough to meet him, I will. I will be a total fanboy. I will run up to him. I will ask for his autograph. I don't ask for autographs anymore, but I will ask for his. I will bow down to his greatness.
That's how it's supposed to be. Yeah. He's your gateway into all this madness.
Yeah.
Imagine if Texas had the best player back then. Like, you had to root for Texas.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Rocket Ismail. I was always a little disappointed that he went to the CFL.
I was crushed just because, he's not at Notre Dame anymore. I was so hurt.
I think it made the legend stronger, though.
Yeah,
to kind of go away, just be like, oh, the Rocket just disappeared or took off.
Yeah, it was
launched. There we go. That's a better one.
Launched. Yeah.
Kind of made the myth. It made the myth that much greater.
The funny thing is, he still got drafted by the Raiders in the 4th round.
That's classic Raiders.
He was the 100th pick in the draft.
He was in the league though for a second, right? Didn't he come back? Yeah.
He was on. He came in with the Raiders. He was in the CFL for, I want to say, like 4 years.
Yeah. Okay.
And then he was on the Raiders, and I followed the Raiders quite a bit, just because he was on the team, and I remember they played in an AFC Championship game at Buffalo. Jay Schrader was the quarterback, and they got walloped. So that didn't make it. And then he was on the Panthers for a spell. He was on the Cowboys for a spell. He had some pretty good seasons with the Cowboys. I want to say he went over 1,000 yards in 1 year. So Troy Aikman was his quarterback. This was kind of like in 2000. They were making a transition, away from Michael Irvin and things like that. So
right, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah, he retired in 2001.
Yeah.
And he's on TV now, right?
He's on those commercials with Bo Jackson.
He is on those commercials with Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are our favorite players of all time. I think Greg's list is a little better than mine.
Whoever your favorite player is better.
But you had some good ones. You went digging through the crates there. You had deep cuts.
Well,
it's not like they didn't start or anything. It's like you were picking bench players. I know.
Yeah.
So that's just a little fun for everybody, just to keep you in our thoughts, keep us in your thoughts. And we will be off next week, but the week after that is the week after signing day. So I think we're going to do a little recruiting thing.
Oh,
just to say who the team's got and talk about some 18-year-old kids, which is always fun.
I got high hopes, Michael.
All the whole world is at their fingertips.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. These are the best players in the world, right?
Yeah,
they're going to change everything. All the wide receivers USC has. They're just going to change everything. All right. Maybe we would have some news. Maybe USC will have some new assistant coaches by then. So,
ooh.
I know. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please subscribe to us on iTunes so you can stay up to date on the podcast and all new episodes. You could follow us on Twitter, it's Tiltingground at Twitter. You can email us. Actually, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, email us. It's tiltingground@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page that I update every day with all the latest breaking Notre Dame and USC news. Greg, what's your Twitter?
At Greg2126.
I believe, Greg, you wrote something for UHND this week. Did I make that up?
I think it was last week.
Oh, my bad.
I wrote about 4 seniors who I think could have, like, I call it a senior bump. You know, they have a big senior year. Basically, the only reason is because they're seniors. So I wrote about that, and then this week sometime I've got something coming out on about how, past signing days for Notre Dame, like the actual day when players decide on signing day where they're going to go. Notre Dame's had some good moments, and they've had some horrifying moments. So
go UHND. Check out Greg over there. I'm Michael Muto on Twitter. Been a little quiet lately. Sorry, everybody. And that's it for this week. Fight on.
Go Irish.